Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you for coming out to our final District 12 community meeting of the year. My name is Mario Zawala. I'm the project communication manager. Do a quick rundown here on how the meetings go if you're not familiar. So our agenda will do some welcome and introductions, rules of engagement. We're going to cover some project milestones. Typically, this is something new that we've added from the last meeting. We've had previous questions that were asked at the last meeting, so that you weren't here, we get answers. So we'll provide answers to that. The standard construction updates. We'll cover segmented testing, details on our next meeting and public hearing, and then how you can stay connected. I want to remind everyone that this is a public meeting. We have audio and video recording in progress. And simple rules, we're going to open up the room for questions after each section. If you have a question, you can raise your hand, just hold out. Once we get to the end of that segment, we'll open up for questions. I know, we want to be cognizant of everyone's time and be sensitive to that, so we're not going to stop on each individual slide. Like I said, when we get to each segment, then we'll open up for questions. Raise your hand, someone will bring you the mic. If you have a question and you don't want to speak out loud, also raise your hand, you can note it down, and then when we get to the last segment for questions, we'll look that over and answer your question at that time. So as I said, I'm Mars, I'm the project communications manager. We also have Trey Walker, our VP of Capital Design and Construction, and Sora Teferi, who's at the front. She's our community relations rep for Dallas. If you have any questions about dark things, not particular civil line, Sora can answer those for you. Also here, our construction team is Gordon Morales, Nico Cantu, and I don't think Nick is here, but they're on hand to answer specific questions when we get down into the nitty-gritty on construction. So as I said, we're going to start off with completed project milestones. This is data is current, but as of the last time we tracked it in October. So we started off, we finished testing the 2 civil line vehicles in the corridor. That's from Plano to Richardson. We're going to be adding more in segment A come early next year. 85% of the UT Dallas station is complete. That is in Richardson, but it's very close proximity to y'all here. And then the Knoll Trail station, which is in the city of Dallas, is 75% complete. Over half of the rail crossings are over 80% complete or have been completed. 32 of the 34 guideway bridges are over 90% completed or have been completed. Where all 7 of the pedestrian bridges are 90% complete or completed. Most of those are waiting just punch outs to be turned over to the cities. On noise and betterment walls, we have 41 of 61 that are 90% installed. And then within the city of Dallas, we got 26 of 32 that we're making progress there. And to date, we've laid over 168,000 linear feet of new track. So as I said, these are questions that either came up at the last meeting or questions that have come up, emailed to us, or someone reached out to our team to ask, and we want to get those answered before we get going, because sometimes you'll have these questions over again. So the first one is, when will the pump house at Hillcrest Road be constructed? So the pump station, which is there to remove surface water from Hillcrest, will be operational when the roadway opens. The pump house, which is actually the aesthetic shell that you're going to see from the outside, is still under design, and it should be finalized spring of 25. That's going to be constructed by DWU with NetCog funding. One thing of note there, I was talking to a gentleman just a minute ago. The infrastructure is in place, but it's not operational, but we do have temporary pumps that will clear out areas so that the road does not flood during construction. Next question, how do we request cleanup to construction areas or areas that have been vandalized? You can reach out to us directly at the construction hotline, the 972-833-2856 number. You can also email us at silverline@dart.org. You'll typically get a response. I think we're shooting for 24. Most of the time we get a response within 48 hours on those. And just so you know, if you have a branch that's coming onto your property that's coming in from the DART right away, you have full clearance to chop it off or cut it or whatever it is you need to do there. Why are AWH work trucks starting construction so early in the morning? So this has come up several times. Most recently we had a meeting to address this, and AWH has worked with the city to put something in place to where anytime a vehicle is parked and running their engines prior to the 7 a.m. start time. We're going to ask them to move, circle back, and then come back in when they're allowed to be there. This started as of October 24th. One thing of note, we have had a couple questions come in. Work trucks are not allowed in the residential areas. We kind of constantly police that. But please know if you see an AWH truck, like an actual F-150 or something like that, or Suburban, that's a street legal vehicle, so they're able to come through on different roads. I think sometimes there's a little confusion with that. Next question, can we do something to stop drivers from making U-turns along Coit Road, specifically at Coit and Sugar Cane? So this is something that came up at the last meeting. We met with the city, reviewed the TPC, and we're able to put up 2 no U-turn signs along Coit Road. This one that you see here is right before you get to McCallum, before the entry, and there's another one right before you get to the entrance of Adventure Landing. Hold on a second, we're going to get through all of them first. Can there be adjustments or changes to the design of the Hillcrest Road pedestrian bridge? This question also came up. The bridge's design been approved and constructed, and the bridge is technically part of the Cotton Belt Regional Trail, not the Silver Line, so that's not operated by DART. So that's something that the city and COG will be overseeing, so they can have those discussions on any adjustments being done. Next, this question again came up at the last meeting and was also submitted afterwards. Why is there a 6-inch concrete barrier in the middle of Davenport Road? Can it be made more visible? So this is a concrete median. It's a federal requirement because it's near a railroad crossing. What had happened here was we had reflectors that people couldn't see or that had been stripped off. So after the last meeting, we went in and put in more delineators, and the permanent ones are in the process of being installed. And that's the photo of the federal required medians there, the 2 delineators. Next question. What's the status of cleaning up the pedestrian walkway within the E-Route boundary along Hillcrest Road? So a temporary walkway was put in as we've been doing construction to allow the E-Route community to move back and forth as well as other pedestrians. Sometimes we have rain or sleet or snow during the wintertime that's come in and makes it hazardous to walk. Typically a phone call has resolved that. So one thing we've done more recently is we have someone from AWH that's going to be in contact with the E-Route community, so then we'll be keeping track of that more regularly. Like I said, someone reached out to us. This is a photo from earlier this week after the walkway was cleared, and we're going to be putting in more asphalt to make it, to raise it, so we don't have as much mud, dirt, gravel that comes in from heavy rains. And then lastly, will Hillcrest Road be ready to open in January 2025 as scheduled? Yes. We are committed to opening a lane of traffic each direction in January, as we discussed before. All right, any questions on these questions that have come up before? Yes, ma'am?
So on the U-turn signs, no U-turn specifically on Coit, I have not noticed one. I did notice that one going southbound. I haven't noticed it actually at the Sugar Cane Adventure Landing spot. Does anybody have that photo?
It's hanging. I have it on my phone. It wasn't very big, so I didn't want to try to enlarge it and display it. I can show it to you.
Okay. That's great, because that's where the concern has been, is there is not width to make a full turn, and so it's incredibly dangerous when a person has to then back up in the intersection. This area is what I actually wanted to ask a question about, because it has not been possible to make a U-turn there. The cones went continuously all the way to McCallum, and given the width here, and actually kind of its lack of visibility, I would say at the light in McCallum, just given the road width and everything, I think it would actually be better to allow some cars to make a U-turn here rather than waiting at McCallum, if that could be considered. So I kind of wanted to discuss that, because since it's just now opened and traffic is all in the outside lanes, there actually is room for cars to turn in there. You could even make a turn lane in a sense, if you wanted to, given the distance from construction right now. So just wanted to actually discuss that, because the The concern was very much at the Adventure Landing True Sugarcane crossing.
So yeah, so Nico came to with AWH. So two things that we did when we added those U-turns was we did add the northbound left turn into the complex there. So that we wanted to do that to help people from not U-turning, and then obviously we did add that U-turn, no U-turn sign. It's on the traffic signal above your head where the lights are. So we did add that. So our concern with opening this left turn here was kind of exactly what you just said. We were introducing now an opportunity to make a U-turn southbound and a northbound. We'll have to get with the city of Dallas to see if that's something that they'll allow to do. I'm sure, I have no doubt people are doing it. They started doing it the second we opened it, pretty much. But just for safety reasons, we did add that there. But we can talk to the city and see if that's something they're open to.
Yeah, that would be wonderful to be.
I would appreciate it if we could be involved in those conversations because, right, there is a lot of need and there are pros and cons to exactly where you make a U-turn. So now that this is open, which I'm sure those businesses greatly appreciate because that was greatly impacting people's ability to access them at all, it would be nice to use this in a safe way because I actually think it might offer safer options than even going to the light at McCallum.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said that the trucks are allowed on the streets, and that's totally fine. Is there any way to report a truck if they almost cause an accident? Because I almost got into one with an AWH truck. It would have been his fault, and I would have had actually a dash cam with it. So is there a way to report these people or to talk to your crews? Because they're dangerous. I mean, they're all up on Meandering Way and McCallum, and there's that intersection is already dangerous as it is because a lot of traffic's coming into it.
Yeah, so anytime, again, anything that comes up regarding construction or something along those that line being hazardous, you can reach out to that 972-833-2856 number, or if you have photos of something, you can always email us at silverlineR.org. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just regarding these questions, I'm sorry I came in late, I wasn't able to get here earlier, but is this posted somewhere after the meeting? I wasn't able to find any prior meetings. I've been traveling, haven't been able to be at meetings, I wanted to see what was going on. Where are these?
Yeah, all the meetings, you can find video recordings of all meetings we've had in the past at dar.org/silverline.
We did an extensive.
I'll show you after the meeting's over.
That would be great, thank you.
Also, the presentations one.
Yeah, so
I will say this current presentation was not posted. We were having internet issues beforehand. Typically we post these before we come in, but this one was not, but it'll be posted.
more importantly than just separate from the actual meetings themselves being videoed and shared, just do you have copies of past presentations that someone?
Yes. Any other questions? Okay, please continue. Okay, going into construction here. This is the Dallas North Tollway, the rail and pedestrian bridges. You can see that we pull track through. The pedestrian bridge is pending a punch list to walk through with the city of Dallas, and then it'll be turned over. This is the Mill Trail Station area. Those products.
I'm going to give Gordon a chance to speak because we're finally building the track in the area, so he's excited.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I do have track crews in this area starting to build track. We started pulling rail. We've got our tie deliveries coming in. We're starting to stage ties now. We'll start bedding the track starting tomorrow. So the bigger excavators out there starting to bed the ties, pull the rail up, and we'll start looking like a railroad. We'll tie in here on the east end of Knoll Trail, and we'll progress east from there. Probably within a month or so, we'll probably see a second heading of a track crew out here also building track. So we're getting to that point.
You'll see the White Rock pedestrian bridge here, pretty complete. Again, it's waiting punch through, walk through. As we're gonna just alluded to, we're gonna be coming through and pulling track through here in the next week or so, and then the crews will start ramping up as we continue to progress in that good. Devonport West, again, you can see most of the walls are up and then finishing up as we start getting ready to pull track through and do additional construction.
This is another crossing where there is a back-to-back median, 6 inches. It's a little longer than the one on Davenport, what we call east, it's north-south. But we do have delineators on them. We will eventually, on both of them, once we install those delineators, we will put yellow paint around them to make them a little more noticeable because they do kind of pop out at you, but it is a FRA requirement for us to have that so that we have quiet zones. Yeah. I have a picture of it on my phone, I drove it today, so quiet zones so that when the train comes through, they're not blowing their horns. Davenport East, not too many changes there. Most of the work we're using in there is kind of further down the alignment between, closer to Hillcrest. Preston Green Head Trail, that's been done for quite a bit now. There's just a couple minor outstanding punch list items, but we intend to turn that over after the new year. Hillcrest Road's progressing really well. We have about 52% of paving down below complete. We're actively working in that area, paving. We've also got crews against the wall stamping, putting the architectural stamp on there. So we're moving quickly in there. There's always 50 different people working in there doing all different types of work. So we're working diligently to make sure that we're open by January 25, as promised. Meandering Way, I believe right before we had the previous meeting, we had a full closure to fix the asphalt and the track had settled a little bit. I just ran through it today and it was still running pretty smooth. Coit Road, we've started, these pictures are probably 3 weeks old at this point, but on the bottom side of the screen, we've started building the guideway through there for the double track crossing, and so it's changed quite a bit under there on the west side. Another view of Coit and all the MOT cones and barrels. This was a protected left that the school requested. We did get it operational, so there is now whenever, especially during school times in the morning or in the afternoon, it's easier to make a left to the school off to the west. And it should help with U-turns as well. Waterview Parkway, we haven't really done too much in here since we turned over the track for Second and C, but just outside of the screen, on the bottom of the screen is the eastern side of Coit, where we're actively building the second phase of the bridge. We'll talk about that here in a bit as well. UTD Station, progressing really well. We're mostly complete in that area. We'll start working on the parking lot, kind of on the top left of the page here shortly, but it's progressing really well. All right, Coit Road update. I'm sure a lot of you see quite a bit of traffic in the area. This is another one kind of like Hillcrest, where we're pretty congested, kind of a small workspace, but we're working diligently to get the road built and the bridge built. On the north side of the tracks, we finished setting all the MSC panels. And so those MSC crews have migrated to the south so that we can prepare the roadway so that we have beams for the bridge coming in next Tuesday. And so we're getting all that ready to make that happen. Once those are set, we'll have a crew start working on the bridge itself. And so we're pushing to get that done by the end of the year.
So as Nico mentioned, we will be doing some overnight work. You should have received a postcard in the mail regarding that, as well as construction activity notice letter, and then we did an alert and a posting on Dark Social today to kind of give everybody a heads up that that work is coming.
Sugarcane culvert update. I know this is a hot ticket item, so I wanted to address this. We just received updated design and memo structural analysis from our engineer of record. We'll submit that to the city tomorrow. The findings that we've come to a conclusion on. Box culverts have sufficient capacity to support the added fill that we're adding with the proposed roadway. It's actually sufficient enough to add 2 to 3, 4 more feet on top of that, so we're well within limits of the culvert's capacity. The head wall itself, which is just the wall right above the double culvert, when we started removing the wall above the decorative facade above, we noticed that it's the picture on the right side. Ooh. Sorry. So it's a picture on the right side. It was a little different than what we expected. We expected to find a solid concrete wall. It turns out it was a CMU wall. We didn't have the as-built at the time, so once we found that out, we've addressed those comments in our latest design memo. And so, like I said, we're submitting that to the city tomorrow. All right, so like I mentioned, head wall, above the head wall, instead of having a CMU block there, you will now have full height concrete to support the new roadway pavement that we're going to be building. As far as the wing walls on the western side, so it's the area to the left, it's really the area to the left or right of the culverts that you see there. The two on the left, the north one and the south one, will be removed and upgraded to support the proposed roadway. That's also part of what we found based on the wall that once we started moving, we realized that and made some adjustments to our design analysis, and these are the conclusions we came to. The good news is that construction phasing is going to be unaffected. The way we currently have it phased, where the westbound lanes are closed, the construction to build these head walls will remain in that footprint. Once we finish that, we get the cars onto the new pavement on the westbound lanes. We'll then flop traffic, and then we'll be able to build the southern head wall, which you see here. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
For the Coit Road crossing, why did you build a bridge for the road to go over instead of having the train go over? Why did you put the bridge on the road instead of the train? And is the train going to also include freight trains?
The train will not include freight trains. It is not rated to have freight trains on it. As to why, I'm trying to think back in a second. Yeah, I honestly don't remember. I believe it was a city decision.
It was an environmental process that happened before the beginning of this project, where the community was able to provide input on what the alignment would look like. There was conversations about a tunnel, a trench, over, under, and eventually they came up with this design.
I just thought they could be quieter if only the train went over, but the highway raised, people are going to hear the cars 24 hours, whereas the train, you're only going to hear when it goes by. So I would think it'd be better to have the train low and the train high and the road low, but.
Thank you. Any questions? I already knew. Yes, ma'am.
As already mentioned, I'm really trying to be kind tonight.
Thank you.
So I'll say thank you for doing the surveys to realize the plans would not have been safe. The sidewalls would not have supported what you wanted to do. It's really important to us, right, that that's what we ultimately end up with. So I'm sorry, I'm really trying to not be sarcastic, but that's the nicest way I can say thank you for finally, at least, really doing some research and making sure that hopefully the plan will be safe. Do you still have a concern though? Because what you've said is the culverts can support weight. That's not the only concern, right? We're also concerned about the transition between the culverts. So what's going in? Yes, and that the weight is split between different items that might shift, where we could have, significant, I don't know how to describe it well, but a break, right, in the ultimate road surface over time, because it's not a continuous support, it's separate box culverts beneath that. And anytime, even if I'm not responsible for that, that's a concern for access to our neighborhood, if that's an area that's gonna need significant repairs over time. So how is that being addressed?
So Lauren is the engineer of record with Jacobs. We brought her in to specifically discuss these type of questions. So I'm gonna turn it over for her to her.
Great, hi, thank you. Like you said, my name is Lauren Van Andel, I'm with Jacobs. We did do a settlement analysis of these culverts with the added loads. In that analysis, we take into account the soil that is out there in the current condition, the loads on the structure. We account for the vehicle loading and take all that into account and put it through an analysis. When we did this, we're adding, it's probably like 2 feet on one side of the culvert and 3 feet on the other side. And so we did an analysis to look at what the differential settlement is, which is, I think, what you're concerned about. For one, the settlement here is very small. It's less than half an inch total. From one side of the culvert to the other, we have, I think, less than a quarter of an inch of differential. That is well within the norms of what is expected in roadway design. And so we don't think that any additional design or details are required to accommodate that. The pavement will naturally handle that amount of differential movement, and you should have a very good riding surface on that for a long time.
So my understanding is, I assume you're talking about the eastern side that would only have 2 to 3 feet, but the road surface is being raised much more than that. So won't there be more than that on the further west you go and at that separation point between them?
So we vary from, if we're talking about the entire wing wall length, so, if you're looking at this, okay, so the way that this system works, the culvert is here, which are your 2 openings, and then you have what we call a wing wall, which is this portion from here over to here. So here where we're closer to Coit, we're raising it, I think at most about 5 feet, or it goes down to current existing grade. We were concerned about the differential settlement at the culvert specifically. That's really where we're focused. We do have a robust pavement analysis that's been done. I wasn't a part of that. I don't know if you know a lot about that, Nico, but our pavement design accounts for the loading and the settlement that might happen on the pavement. And that is separate than what you would look at the culvert or a bridge. The way that the pavement soil interaction works on the wing wall is very different than at the culvert. So that's why we're focused at the culvert.
We did analyze both areas. Our main concern was over the culvert. And really, the only concern was down the road would be a maintenance issue. It never had to do with any kind of failure or anything like that. It's always been, in our eyes, a maintenance issue that could happen 5-10 years down the road, and that's why we're dealing with it now, so that you'll have a good product for 20, 50 years, right?
Is that what the models, the settlement, in those models estimated over what time period?
I can't speak to the pavement design models, but I know at least in most of the design that we do, we look at a 75-year life cycle. So, like, the bridge is designed for a 75-year design life. That's our usual timeframe.
And so just to make sure I understand, because you're, like Nick, you kept saying over the culvert, but what about at each transition point? Right, because it's gonna, you said it's different what you expect over the culvert itself versus the road over the wing walls.
So from the wing wall to the existing ground, is that what you're talking about, or from the
I'm thinking about the street itself, and the street has different support structures under it.
Absolutely, yes.
I would say the roadway's no different than the 20 feet that we're adding for the Coit Bridge, right? We have soil that we've analyzed, and we know how it's going to react, and so we're bringing it up to a certain spot, we're then putting flex space underneath that pavement, and the pavement is gonna go on top of that, right? So when we're talking about I guess as you're transitioning off of there, we don't expect any kind of issues between those two.
And I'm sorry, I'm not well versed on the pavement design in this area, so I don't have those specific questions, but we do an analysis and we consider, again, the soils, and have multiple layers of that pavement design. And I don't know how many layers you have, like how thick is your total pavement?
How thick is it?
Like plus or separated, 18 inches, yeah. And I know, I live in the city of Dallas as well, and I hear you're concerned about like potholes, and there's a lot of areas where things are dropping and they go and patch it, and it's not really up to par, 5 years later. But we are putting in a full pavement system, which is different than whenever the city of Dallas goes out and patches like spots here and there. They just like push the dirt down and put some pavement on and hope it stays. This is a full pavement system that has been designed and analyzed, and it should perform well across the width.
Yes, ma'am.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for getting the left turn lane from Coit to your Osage Plaza. That has been fantastic. And my question is, the bridge that's on Coit from about McCallum, just short of Frankfurt, is that bridge going to have sidewalks put back along each side for pedestrians, or is that something the city will be doing?
No, it will have sidewalks on both sides. The reason why the existing phase does not have any right now is we needed enough room to have 4 lanes of traffic. So I had mentioned that we're gonna by the end of the year we're planning on pouring the bridge deck, but there's still quite a bit of follow-on work after that. You have the rail. We actually have 2 sets of rail. You have the rail that's going to be blocking the road from the pedestrians, or the vehicular traffic from the pedestrians, and then we're going to have another rail behind that, and it's going to be so that people can't fall off of the bridge itself. So yes, there will be sidewalks on both sides of Coit when it's complete.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
Different question, just going back to the eastern end again on Sugarcane, you said, oh, it'll be about a foot high, and then you corrected yourself and said, well, it'll come back down to ground level. That's where you're very close to an alley, so I don't know who exactly to direct this question to, but where exactly is it going to begin sloping up, and how does that relate to the alley and the current access that we have to the pond there?
It is, when you drive Sugarcane right now, the limits that we've demolished to today is the limits of our construction, so that's where it starts coming up after that.
Any other questions? Okay, please continue. All right, so I mentioned segment testing. Segment testing is basically us testing the validity of the signals, the crossings, the track itself, and then the vehicles on the track moving forward. So you've seen this slide before. This is kind of an updated version as we've modified it to adhere to construction. So later on this quarter, we're doing that right now in A1, which is basically running from DFW Airport Terminal B to the DFW Airport North Station. A2, which will be running the beginning of next year during Q1, will run from the DFW North Station to just almost to I-35. The A3 section is basically through the downtown Carrollton, where we'll be connecting to section B, which is here through Dallas, which involves the completion of Hillcrest Road. All of that should occur during Q1 of 2025, which is early next year. C, which I mentioned before, is what we just completed, running from Shallow Road through the UTD station. And then end-to-end testing, Q2 of 2025, which will have simulated service from the Terminal B station all the way to Shallow with stops along the way. So the goal is to, again, test each segment, and then once each segment is cleared, then test the entire alignment with the vehicles, and then prepare for revenue service. We're still targeting revenue service opening end of 25, early 26, and we're about a little over 80% done with the project, so we should be in those target rates. Our next meeting here will be Thursday, February 6th at the biennial meeting for Dallas. And then, as we mentioned before, questions have come up regarding service and the plan of how that's going to move forward. We'll cover during that biannual the service plan, open up to questions. That will kind of serve as the Dallas area's biannual update regarding construction on the project, as well as the service plan introduction. We'll answer all questions there, and then you'll also have the opportunity to address the board if you so choose when they have their public hearing on March 25th. So if for some reason that changes, we'll obviously update you, but the goal is to do various biannual meetings and service plan updates throughout the different communities along the Silver Line corridor, and then prepare for that public hearing on March 25th. At that point, the DART board will determine the service options. As I mentioned before, we've had several questions come up about how you can reach out to us. Information is on dart.org/Silverline. You can always email us directly. Those emails tend to come to myself and then the rest of the Silverline team. Will get back with you within 48 hours, silverline@dart.org. And then the hotline for construction, which I mentioned before, is the 972-833-2856. So if you have a question regarding construction, cones, sign suggestion, traffic issues, like you mentioned with vehicles, please call there. You can report that, and whoever you talk to will address it, or get you to someone that can address it within that day. All right, any questions on testing or connected? Yes, ma'am.
The testing, you said that it's not going to be quiet zones.
Correct. So quiet zones won't be in effect because as we're testing everything along the track. So crossings, signals, etc. The train will sound the horn as it's coming through.
What time of day are you doing these tests? I mean, are they gonna be at all hours? Like,
We'll
normally?
notify the city ahead of time. It's generally been on the weekends, like during the day. But again, it sometimes varies. Yes, ma'am.
Just a request on the meetings, to have those details online in advance, because like if you look for tonight's meeting, it's not just that the slides aren't uploaded yet, it's not listed in the D12 section.
I'll have to check that. Any other questions from the gallery? That's all good. Well, we will stick around and answer any questions that you have. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, everybody.